Disclaimer. This video is intended for educational and entertainment purposes. While the information presented is based on historical research, archaeological findings, and widely discussed theories, some interpretations, including alternative or fringe ideas, are speculative in nature and not universally accepted by mainstream scholars. The goal is to explore the mystery of the Great Pyramid with curiosity and respect, not to promote conspiracy theories or discredit academic expertise. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and engage critically with the content. Egypt, 4,500 years ago. A civilization rising from the desert, ruled by divine kings and shaped by the Nile's eternal rhythm. It was here, under blistering sun and golden skies, that humankind achieved something that still defies explanation. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built for Pharaoh Khufu, it towers 480 feet high, 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing 2 to 80 tons, carved with no steel, stacked with no cranes, aligned to true north with near-perfect precision, something even modern buildings rarely match. It was the tallest structure on Earth for nearly 4,000 years, and somehow, it was completed in just over 2 decades. But what if we told you? We still don't know how. No blueprints have ever been found. No detailed instructions. No definitive proof of exactly how it was done. Archaeologists have proposed theories, ramps, sleds, manpower. But the deeper you look, the more the math doesn't add up. Imagine placing one stone every 2.5 minutes for 20 years, day and night, no mistakes, across thousands of workers, and doing it without a single modern machine. How did ancient builders move multi-ton blocks across miles of desert? How did they lift them hundreds of feet in the air? And how did they do it with such accuracy that it still stuns architects today? It's one of the greatest unsolved engineering feats in human history. Was it just brute strength? Or lost knowledge? Were they guided by genius? Or something more mysterious? This is not just the story of a monument. It's the story of a riddle carved in stone, one that's waited 45 centuries to be answered, because the pyramids still stand. But the truth about how they were built may have been buried with their creators. The Great Pyramid isn't just massive, it's precise. At first glance, you see a mountain of limestone rising from the sands of Giza. But look closer, and the numbers start to feel impossible. Each side of the base measures 755 feet, and they're almost perfectly equal. It covers 13 acres, with a footprint large enough to hold 10 football fields. Its alignment to true north is accurate within 3/60th of a degree, better than most modern compasses. The difference in base level across its 4 corners? Just less than an inch. And this, 4,500 years ago. No steel, no lasers, no satellites, just stone tools, copper chisels, ropes, and muscle. Archaeologists estimate 20,000 to 30,000 workers may have toiled for 20 to 27 years to complete it. Not slaves, but skilled laborers, likely fed, housed, and honored for their work. But here's where the mystery deepens. Many of the pyramid's granite blocks, used in the internal chambers, weigh up to 80 tons. They were quarried in Aswan, over 500 miles away, then transported somehow up the Nile, across desert sands, and lifted into place with almost surgical precision. The joints between some stones are so tight that a human hair can't fit between them. And then, there's the scale of effort. To complete the pyramid in just 20 years, builders would have had to place a stone every 2 to 3 minutes, 24 hours a day, without fail. That includes transporting, carving, lifting, and aligning stones that modern cranes struggle to move. So how did they do it? Were there massive ramps? Spiral staircases made of mud brick? Did they pour the stones in place like ancient concrete, as some radical theories suggest? Or was there a now-lost system of pulleys, levers, and engineering genius we've yet to rediscover? Because this wasn't just brute strength. It was mastery of mathematics, design, and project management on a scale that's hard to comprehend even today. Some believe the builders had knowledge far beyond their time. Others think we're still underestimating the power of human ingenuity and organization. But even the most conventional explanations leave gaps. The deeper you look, the more the stones seem to whisper the same thing. We're not telling. Because the mystery of the pyramids isn't just how they were built. It's how they were built so perfectly. If the pyramid builders didn't have cranes, what did they have? The most accepted theory across decades has been deceptively simple. Ramps, dirt ramps, mud brick ramps, wooden sledges dragged up incline after incline. But here's the problem. To reach the pyramid's original height of 481 feet, a straight ramp would have to stretch for over a mile, gradually rising at a manageable slope. That would require more material than the pyramid itself, tens of millions of extra tons. And after the pyramid was done, where did the ramp go? No physical trace has ever been found. That's led to alternate theories. The zigzag ramp. Some scholars suggest a switchback system, ramps that zigzagged up one face of the pyramid. This would require less material and space, but there's no visual evidence, no wear patterns. And transporting 80-ton stones on tight hairpin turns? Unlikely. The spiral ramp. Others propose a spiral ramp circling the pyramid's exterior, gradually spiraling upward as construction progressed. But that would have covered the outer edges, blocking the very precision work on the stone faces that make the pyramid so remarkable. And again, no remains. So, what if the answer wasn't outside? What if it was hidden inside? Jean-Pierre Houdin's internal ramp theory. In the early 2000s, a French architect named Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed a radical idea. What if the builders constructed a hidden, internal spiral ramp inside the pyramid's outer shell? Using 3D modeling software, Houdin showed how a corridor could wind upward just beneath the surface, allowing workers to pull stones up internally, out of sight. There's even a mysterious notch on the pyramid's northeast corner, possibly a turning chamber. In 2016, thermal scans detected anomalies in that very area, suggesting hidden voids that match Houdin's model. It was the first time modern science seemed to confirm an ancient theory. And yet, even that isn't definitive. The internal ramp has never been physically entered or verified. No tools, no drawings, no writing on the walls saying, "This is how we built it." The pyramid keeps its secrets. And so, the ramps, straight, spiral, internal, remain architectural ghosts. We know something was used. We know blocks were moved, placed, stacked, almost 2.3 million times. But how they got from ground level to 400 plus feet high with millimeter precision, that's the race we still haven't won, because the closer we climb to the truth, the more the summit disappears into mystery. In 2013, beneath the scorched rocks of the Red Sea coast, something extraordinary surfaced from the silence of time. Archaeologists exploring a remote site at Wadi al-Jarf, one of the oldest known Egyptian harbors, stumbled upon something they never expected, a cache of ancient papyri. Fragile, flaking, and browned by centuries, these scrolls held something more valuable than gold. A diary, written by a man named Merer, a low-ranking overseer during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, the very king credited with building the Great Pyramid. The entries were practical, even mundane, but within their faded lines was a revelation. Merer described boatloads of white limestone, quarried at Tura and ferried down a specially designed canal system that connected the Nile directly to the Giza Plateau. His crew managed the transport, working in 3-day shifts. He noted docking schedules, water levels, delivery logs, all casually confirming what had long been assumed but never proven. The pyramids were built not just with brute strength, but with water, and a logistical network worthy of modern engineering. The ancient Egyptians had turned the Nile into their own industrial highway. But the papyri revealed more than infrastructure. They offered a glimpse into the human side of pyramid building, one rarely shown in dusty textbooks. For decades, popular culture suggested slaves built the pyramids, whipped, chained, and broken under the desert sun. But the real story is more complicated and more human. Archaeological digs around the Giza Plateau have uncovered workers' villages, complete with sleeping quarters, kitchens, bakeries, even hospitals. Tombs found nearby held the remains of builders buried with honor, alongside jars of beer and bread, the gifts reserved for the blessed dead. And on the massive limestone blocks themselves, graffiti. Teams gave themselves nicknames: the drunkards of Menkore, friends of Khufu. They scrawled messages, left marks, and carved inside jokes. They were not nameless laborers. They were craftsmen, specialists, citizens of a civilization whose pride in their work literally shaped history. They built in teams, ate together, laughed together, and perhaps even wondered, would anyone, thousands of years later, still remember what they had done? Thanks to Mirror, we do. But even with these revelations, one truth remains. We still don't know exactly how these workers moved 80-ton granite slabs with such uncanny precision. The papyri give us the pieces, but the full picture? Still incomplete. It's as if the ancient Egyptians left us clues, just enough to inspire awe, but never enough to solve the puzzle completely. And so we look deeper, into every diary, every graffiti mark, every grain of ancient sand, chasing the echoes of workers who built the impossible. And who, in the quiet ink of a 4,500-year-old scroll, finally got to whisper, "We were here." For all the evidence we've uncovered, the papyri, the ramps, the limestone canals, something still feels incomplete. Because what if the pyramids weren't built with backbreaking labor and copper tools alone? What if the truth lies somewhere stranger? Let's start with one of the more grounded fringe theories, the geopolymer hypothesis. First proposed by French materials scientist Joseph Davidovits, this theory suggests that some of the pyramid's stones weren't carved, they were cast, like concrete. Using a mixture of local limestone, clay, water, and a mysterious binding agent, ancient builders may have created synthetic stone blocks, poured into wooden molds and left to harden. It would explain the unusually tight joints, some no thicker than a human hair. It would also explain the lack of tool marks on certain blocks. And modern tests on some pyramid samples have revealed strange microstructures. Not quite natural, not quite modern concrete. Still, the evidence remains inconclusive, and most Egyptologists dismiss the idea as fringe. But then, it gets weirder. Across the globe in the highlands of Tibet, old legends tell of monks levitating giant stones using horns, drums, and sacred chants, sound frequencies, vibrating in harmony. Some scientists have explored this idea too. Acoustic levitation, where certain sound waves can suspend small objects in midair. Could the ancient Egyptians have tapped into sound in ways we no longer understand? There's no proof, but the questions linger. Then come the theories that push past the boundaries of mainstream science and deep into the realms of forbidden history. Aliens, Atlantis, time travelers. They sound outlandish, but they persist. Fueled by perfect alignments, mathematical precision, and astronomical symbolism far beyond what we'd expect from a Bronze Age civilization. The Great Pyramid, after all, is aligned within 1/15 of a degree of true north, more precise than any modern structure until GPS. Its base dimensions encode pi and the golden ratio, and some claim it mirrors Orion's belt, part of a cosmic blueprint across the Giza plateau. Coincidence? Or a message? Shows like Ancient Aliens have turned speculation into entertainment. But beneath the dramatic music and glowing saucers is a simple, uncomfortable truth. We don't know. And perhaps that's why these fringe theories remain so magnetic. Because they offer something mainstream archaeology often cannot. A sense of wonder. They remind us that history isn't always a straight line, that knowledge can be lost, that we are not as advanced or as certain as we believe. For every trowel of sand that uncovers a truth, 1,000 more bury secrets deeper. So whether it's ancient chemistry, forgotten acoustics, or visitors from beyond the stars, one thing is clear: the pyramids still hold secrets. And maybe, just maybe, they were built not just to stand against time, but to outwit it. We tend to see ancient history through the lens of modern arrogance. We assume that without electricity, machines, or digital planning tools, ancient people were somehow primitive, fumbling in the dark, figuring it out as they went. But the truth? The builders of the pyramids weren't just laborers. They were engineers, mathematicians, artists, and logisticians. And their minds may have worked in ways we've only begun to understand. Take water engineering. Ancient Egyptians diverted parts of the Nile River using canals, not only for irrigation, but possibly to transport massive limestone blocks directly to the pyramid sites. The river itself became their highway. Their tools were simple, yes, but not crude. Copper chisels constantly resharpened, carved with precision. Wooden sleds slid blocks across slick surfaces of mud or water-soaked sand, reducing friction dramatically, as confirmed by modern physics experiments. They used wooden rollers, pulley-like systems, and stone counterweights. Some theories suggest they even poured water to harden desert surfaces for hauling. But perhaps the greatest tool they had wasn't physical. It was organization. Tens of thousands of workers, not slaves as once believed, but paid laborers, working in rotating crews. They had meal plans, medical care, and housing complexes nearby. These weren't just builders. They were citizens, participating in something far greater than themselves. Time was another tool. They weren't rushing the Great Pyramid likely took over 2 decades to complete. 20 years of precision, of planning of human commitment to something that would outlive every single one of them. And perhaps that's the real lesson. We marvel at the pyramids because they feel impossible. But maybe that's because we're measuring ancient intelligence by modern shortcuts, machines, automation, speed. What the Egyptians had instead was vision, patience, community, discipline, and a relentless drive to leave behind something eternal. In the end, maybe the greatest mystery isn't how they built the pyramids, but how we forgot to believe ancient minds could. The pyramids still rise from the sands, ancient, silent, and untouched by time. We've uncovered fragments of how they may have been built. We've found scrolls, ramps, and tools. We've modeled the physics. We've argued the theories. And yet, something still escapes us. Because the pyramids weren't just monuments. They were messages, carved in stone, measured in stars, aligned to eternity. Maybe the real mystery isn't in how they were built, but why. Were they tombs? Gateways to the afterlife? Or something deeper? Something we've forgotten to even ask? As the wind sweeps across Giza and the desert sun sinks low, one truth remains. The pyramids were built by human hands, but their meaning still whispers just beyond our reach.